Hello and welcome to Emergence Leading from the Field. My name is Artemis Evangelidis and I am your host. This podcast shines a light on courageous leaders from around the world, leaders who are shaping the future in bold and inspiring ways. Moving beyond the boardroom, we feature authentic conversations with guests, the change makers, visionaries, and innovators who are leading from experience, purpose, and heart, from the field where transformation takes place. These are conversations with people who are listening deeply, acting boldly, and are doing their part to shape a more conscious and connected world. Our conversations will offer a rare glimpse into how our guests have overcome challenges while spearheading innovations that have enabled them to lead from the front lines. Be inspired as our guests share their journey. Today, I am absolutely delighted to welcome Mel Storey to the podcast. Mel is a lawyer turned creative entrepreneur and mentor. After 15 years in corporate legal leadership, she recently stepped away to build a portfolio career centered on meaning, creativity, and contribution. Through her platform, Counsel Media, at the In-House Lawyer on social media, and her career Big Sis mentoring brand, Mel helps professionals reconnect with their values, find clarity in transition, and lead with authenticity. Her work blends legal wisdom, storytelling, and human insight to explore what modern leadership and identity look like beyond the structures of certainty and control. Mel hosts the Counsel podcast and creates digital tools, courses, and community experiences for lawyers and professionals navigating change. Mel, welcome. It is so fantastic to have you here.
Thank you. And thank you for that intro. I'm just listening like, who's that? She sounds fantastic. Am I really doing all of that? I love it.
Yes, you are. And this is, I guess, a fantastic segue for you to tell us the how, right? So you've spent 15 years in corporate legal leadership. When did you know that things needed to change?
I think it's like a slow process and then all at once. And I couldn't put an exact pinpoint on when I started to feel this inkling of something more beyond practicing as a lawyer every day. But I can absolutely remember the moment when it was like the straw that broke the camel's back. It was very much earlier this year. I want to say March. I got invited to speak at an event in Melbourne, and I wasn't going to be able to make it because my big legal job took me overseas often, and I was going to be overseas and I couldn't do it. And it was not the first time I'd had to say no, but this one just tipped me over. And I was like, man, that's the stuff I want to be doing. They're the places that I want to be. And that forum was a beautiful place to go and connect with like-minded people. And I was making a call about living in line with my values and committing with, going with what I'd committed to do. And the day job had been taking full precedent. But that one was like, no, I need to do something now to shift because I'm sick of missing out on these things that just really, really light me up. And then I suppose I started to accelerate a bit of a plan that I had been cooking up in the background for years, but it was very slow and then all at once.
Love that. And usually that's how it is, right? Like as soon as you make the decision, the universe says, right, well, you're ready. I'm ready to meet you where you're at. Let's get moving. I'm
And it's
curious,
not
how
convenient.
did
It wasn't a convenient thing either. It was like, no, let's just wait because I wanted to like save a little bit more money and get a proper business plan and redo my website and have like a proper launch and a logo and have everything nice and perfect, which does not exist. And then these inklings, these drop-ins from the universe, whatever they are, this pull, this deep pull, it was like it was so all-consuming and it just was getting louder and louder. And I was like, not now, go away. But that's how it works. So yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And that's we talk about timing so often, and we talk about divine timing, and the timing of our concept of time is not the same as divine timing and the timing that the universe operates on. And so having faith and allowing that to kind of come through for us is so wonderful. But I'm really curious, and because this podcast is emergence, it's leading from the field, it's about being in touch and sensing and presencing what is emerging for us. When you made that decision, how did it kind of land in your body? Was it an unraveling? Was it something that you could feel moving through you? It's always really lovely for people to hear other people's
Mm.
experiences, because I know that we don't spend enough time to reflect on what we're feeling in the body, and the body holds so much wisdom and is actually talking to us. Sometimes we miss those cues.
I think that the first most overwhelming sense was that of relief, that I had finally made the decision to go all in. It had been just this like open tab at the back of my head for some time, but I was really trying to serve two masters with my full-time job and then side hustle, something over here, this thing that's lighting me up, this passion project, this thing that I can't quite define yet, but that's all I can think about. And as that started to shift, and then that inconvenience of like, no, 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 but the full-time job, the stability, the security, we've got to be smart, we've got to be thinking about finishing what we started, accept, you kind of go up that ladder, do the things we said we're going to do. That pull was so strong for so long that once I had just made the call, that relief was just, I was actually exhausted, I think, with this internal friction and this internal pull and struggle between, I guess, the head and the heart. And I finally let go, and it was like gripping. I was gripping, but when I finally let go, that was just pure relief. And then a bit of exhaustion, a bit of a come down. I think there was like just this post corporate adrenaline cortisol crash that really knocked me around and pushed me into a state of rest, whether I liked it or not. I was excited that I was going to be building something new, but I was pretty stuck in relief and then exhaustion, which was an interesting time as well. So a lot of emotions in there, to be honest, and
Mm.
um, a lot of them that I didn't expect. I thought, right, we're done and off we go. We start building the thing. But there was a deep need for pause and rest. And I mean, I've been out for 5 months now, and I'm keen to look back at even this time, and I'm still thinking, oh, maybe I should still be resting. I'm not sure. This process of deprogramming the way that I had worked, derived value, thought about time, structure, and rest for myself for 15 years. And gosh, maybe longer if I think about study as well. And this new process, this new way of being, it's quite a shift for me, and I'm still in it, I think.
Mm. It's often the stories that we tell ourselves around, what we should be doing, what we should be feeling, what we should be experiencing, and then you add on the expectations, and it's this whole thing. And really the power is in the letting go and,
Mm.
allowing to see what wants to come up for us.
It's
I
hard. It's hard for us lawyers. That grip on the
It
certainty.
absolutely is.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there's not I can't think of a more ill-equipped profession to practice the art of letting go into the deep unknown, the imperfect, the
Mm.
uncertain, the creative, the wide expanse of abundance without rules. I mean, I just can't think of anyone who's less well equipped and practiced, perhaps, than the legal profession, and the way that I had been and had embodied that, and the way that I was living in line with that way of being as well. So it's a whole journey, but can be done. And I'm not the only one doing it. There's an interesting little there's little I don't know, little fairies floating off and doing their own little thing. It's very exciting. I think once you go out and you find your people and you just start to collect the people who are doing something similar, and it's not as lonely, which is really lovely.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of us now, but it's interesting you said that before because we know from the research that's been done on the lawyer's brain that we score lower than the general population in resilience. We're not
Mm,
we're not good at changing course quickly and bouncing back and being agile, but the minute we learn that, it's and we recognize that that's a trait that we can practice and we can build on. It's such a game changer, and the uncertainty and leaning into uncertainty instead of it being creating fear and creating having this resistance to uncertainty. When you allow the uncertainty, it can actually lead to curiosity and a lot of awe and wonder and creativity. And there's again, it's making that switch. And I think for all of us who have, we're trained as lawyers who have that kind of adversarial mind and way of thinking and really structured with our time and the perfectionism and
mm.
the crazy demands that we would put on ourselves to actually find freedom and go, oh, I'm still productive, I'm still doing amazing things, I'm just not doing it in the way that I was, is
Yeah,
wonderful. Yeah.
yeah. Oh, you're so right. And it's um, yeah, that's so beautifully put. It is a freedom and a trusting of yourself, and you're just like, oh well, I'll figure it out. Like I have. So, oh, it's really interesting. Quite the experiment.
Yeah, I bet. um I'm I want to change course a little bit, and I really want to take you on just to explore a little bit about your own your experience of this, but also how you help others. I mean, you talk about, you help professionals now to kind of reconnect with their values. And I'm curious, what values surfaced for you once you left the law? You mentioned it earlier that you felt that there was a bit of conflict there. I want to be doing all this stuff that brings me joy. And here I am having to like also do the stuff that, I know is important. It's, usually that internal conflict is a conflict of values. I'm curious, were you
Mm.
able to kind of dig into your own values a little bit more once you left the practice?
Mm. I I couldn't agree with you more. And that conflict was from a version of me that was no longer serving me or no longer was me, or I had outgrown. And this new version, I often think of like, is it the lobster or I don't know. I don't know sea life very well, but there's an animal that outgrows its shell and it what it is, and it has to go to the new one. And when it does that, when it goes and finds a new one, it's really soft and it's quickly got to go and build into its new shell. And if it stays in its old shell, it's safe and it's nice and hardened and it's comfortable, but it gets a bit tight. It's a little bit restrictive. So that's that feeling that I had. And I feel like I'm the crab now walking along the sand, really exposed, but in search for like my next home and my next shell. And maybe I'm in it now, I don't know. But that analogy was pretty much how it felt to not be living in line with my values anymore. And now that I have that space to do that, the things that are coming up first and foremost is a sense of independence and freedom that I love and that I have missed. The way that I can design my days to suit myself and my natural energy flow, which is different to a 9 to 5. I get really creative at nighttime and I sleep in a little bit more than maybe I would have if I had to get up and, kind of get into the morning commute. So I'm just finding this new rhythm and it's a beautiful freedom that I'm just really loving. The creativity, the ideas coming to me because I'm allowing myself to have moments of rest or just space is so beautiful and such a gift. And I think what else? Oh, gosh, the values they're intrinsic more so than that external. I had very much played a pretty good game of getting the titles, getting the pay rises, getting the promotions, getting the awards, you know, kind of all of those tick, 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 blue check marks, gold stars, whatever it was that was some external metric of, hey, you're doing well, and like, go you, valuable, cheers. And in this new space, there isn't that at all. There's certainly a sense of, okay, people are receiving what I'm putting out into the world, and they're giving me their money, and we're having a transaction like that feels good, that feels valuable. But other than that external thing, it's all very internal. It's like, well, how am I feeling? How am I at peace? How am I, kind of calm and relaxed, and living in a way that just feels a little bit more zen, to be honest. And all of this is still such a privilege as well. I'm able to even go into this space and explore this, because, well, there's a number of reasons, but I have had a high paying job for a long time, and I was able to save and to give myself a little cushion and a buffer. And, I've been able to put in things in place that have allowed me to take this risk. And I know that not everybody can do that. And I also really acknowledge that I can always go back to practicing as a lawyer. And so that safety net is also quite a privilege. But I don't want to. So I want to make this other thing work. I just think, yeah, that topic of the values is important, and that feeling of not being close to living in line with them. Like, once you feel that, you can't unfeel it, even if it is inconvenient.
100%, 100%. And I love how you're starting to shift your own definition of success, right? Like, what does success look like
Oh,
now?
yeah,
Success was so different
totally.
back then, right? Like, now it's
Hmm.
something completely unique and new. Yeah.
Absolutely.
What?
And that's what I work with a number of people to get a sense of success for them as well. So empowering, I think, to hear from someone gives you permission to redefine success for yourself, and not what your parents want, or what you think society expects, or what you've been told, or the shoulds, like you said. That is such a powerful reclaiming, and so empowering, and scary too. Lawyers like rules, and here's the rules for success. Tick, okay, you're good. But I just think that that's not, ultimately, that wasn't sustainable for me. And coming back to my new definition is, well, it's a beautiful privilege to be able to have the space to think about this, and to rethink my life to better kind of click with this new definition.
Mm. So you do quite a few things now, right? We're reading through your introduction, and you
Yeah.
yourself said, "Oh my goodness, do I do all those things?" What's your most favorite thing to do at the moment? What's your most favorite service or offering that you're engaged in that brings you so
Oh,
much joy?
writing. I'm loving. I have got so many of like guides that I'm, like ebooks really, that I'm halfway through a new I'm kind of, I get it, like shiny object syndrome. And I'm writing a guide for young lawyers working in a toxic legal workplace environment, and really how to survive, protect themselves, and ultimately, try to move out of that environment. That came from just a need that I have seen through the people that I speak to on a daily basis. It's just like, oh my gosh, we need to have something that's a little bit more practical here. And I hate that this is necessary, but it is. And on the other end of the spectrum, I'm also working on this comprehensive guide to the Australian legal profession and careers in law for law students. I really just want this comprehensive one-stop shop for everything that you can be and you can do with your law degree, and not focusing on traditional or non-traditional pathways, but really trying to start a conversation about knowing yourself and starting from there, and the exercises to work through your values, and then choosing a path that aligns with that. So the framework is impact seekers structure seekers, and there's a third one, autonomy, independence, and like creativity seekers. So I'm trying to reframe the choose your own adventure of a legal career, because when I speak to law students as well, they're equally confused, confounded. They think, oh, if you don't get a clerkship at a top firm, you're doomed forever and you're destined to legal Siberia and you'll never make it. And I'm just hearing that conversation year after year after year. And I just thought, right, instead of pulling them out at the bottom of the stream when they're just very upset and stressed because they're not getting a clerkship, can I go further upstream and see why they're falling in the first place? Okay, well, it's a number of things. But can I get on campus and get this guide into every hand of like every first year? I don't know, but let's see. So that's what I'm doing next year. So that is there, the Career Big Sis on tour, pulling together information and making it really accessible and accessible price points. You know, they don't know about even that they have to do PLT at the end of a law degree, that a law degree doesn't actually equal being a practitioner. And it just frustrates me, all these gate-kept stories, mythologies, things about, you know, the ideas of success, all of these things. It's, you know, even social media and general media and how it portrays legal professions. You know, there's so much to unpack. And I'm like, I'm going to do it. Who else is going to do this? No, I'm not sure, but I'm going to do it. And I know there are lots of institutions and law societies that do put out guides like this. They do a great job, but they aren't all created equal, and some do it better than others. And I have a distribution channel and a platform that's in a different space to some of those more legacy institutions. And I can reach people, younger people, on TikTok, on YouTube Shorts, on Instagram Reels. I know how to speak in that way and get that, you know, that message to them if they want it. So that's the stuff that lights me up. But there's all kinds of things going on. It's a lot of fun.
Great. I want to take you back a little bit to your first project that you mentioned with the toxic workplaces. Oftentimes people aren't sure whether what they're experiencing because they haven't experienced it before, especially junior or early career lawyers. You know, like, is this the norm? Am I the only one who's finding this a little bit challenging, or what is it? What are the signs that you would kind of flag, the red signs that professionals kind of need to be on the lookout for before they start that overwhelm, burnout, you know, disconnection? What are your like top 3 things that you should be looking out for where you can say, actually, no, this isn't normal. This isn't how it should be.
Yeah. It is a hard one to spot because often it's very insidious and it's slow over time. A very slow breakdown of somebody's confidence. And I actually think it is hard there's not often these horrible, massive, big things that happen that just blow you out and you go, oh my God, that's unacceptable. I'm out of here. You know, that's not how it seems to work. I find more often than not, in my own experience and those that I speak with, is that it's just this slow wearing down of your confidence, of not feeling that you're good enough or that you're empowered to make the decisions that you need to make to do a good job, or that the feedback that you're receiving it's not done in a way that's, you know, kind and candorous. I think you can be constructive and kind at the same time. We don't need to be giving criticism or feedback publicly at a team or in front of clients. You know, some of the most horrific stories that I hear, even, you know, within the last few weeks. Last week was a doozy. I had like, oh my gosh, people who are being yelled at in front of other members of the team and like actually yelled at for a minor mistake that, you know, there's 2 sides to every story, but in any event, there are ways to communicate and then there are ways not to communicate. So all of this is this toxic, insidious, you know, this muck that you can find yourself in. And I liken it to the frog in boiling water. It often is slow in that the one degree, you know, you might something odd is said, or they speak weirdly about someone who recently left the firm, or just minor little things that you might be able to dismiss or just put down to one-offs. But over time, it builds up, and then you really find yourself lacking that confidence, feeling like you should leave the law, that you should never have wanted to be a lawyer in the first place because you're not very good at it, you're not making any progress, you're making all of these horrible mistakes. And the way that you're feeling, the Sunday scaries going into the workplace is having like a physical and physiological effect on you, and your nervous system doesn't feel safe. And as I say this, I can just think of so many people that I've spoken to who are feeling this in different ways, but it brings up this concept of the psychological and the psychosocial safety, which is an entirely new concept, I think, to the legal profession that shouldn't be. I actually learned on Friday that the term was coined in 1999 by a Harvard professor, but it's taken time to come into the lexicon and the mainstream. And we're all grappling now with what this is. What is bullying versus constructive feedback? What is, this, what is, we have a deadline and we have to meet it versus, this is, I'm unsafe and I'm being asked to work in ways that I don't agree with. There's a really interesting cultural shift happening amongst generations of workers as well. And we have legislation now that is forcing the issue and the conversation. I think that's such a good thing. But in that, where the pendulum is finding its new water level, and it's a good thing, it's overdue. The legal profession, there's no secret whatsoever that with the type of demands, the type of work, and the type of incentives that we have in the industry around the billable hours, around the people that bring in the money, can often get away with just, unacceptable, sometimes even illegal behavior. And things are shifting, but not fast enough. And we are silenced, we are siloed, and we feel like maybe it was just us. But often when I think we come together and share and talk, we can just have this airing of, okay, this is what it can feel like, this is unacceptable, and here are your options. So I do struggle to think about, right, what are the top 3 things, but you have to know yourself and know your baseline and know what feels safe for you in your body, in your nervous system, and that difference between being excited about something being anxious about something. And if that persists, I don't think that's overly safe workplace for you. If people in managing positions are not emotionally regulating themselves well, coming into the workplace in a way that's heightened and yelling and, putting people on edge and just acting in just absolutely unacceptable ways, that's the sign of lawyers that maybe get promoted without the requisite leadership skills, because it's two entirely different skill set. And it's hard to find someone who has both, but the effects of a poor leader, and a manager can affect somebody and in ways that I don't know if there's much more that can affect you in your workplace than that, that manager. I mean, I could go on and on. I'm just like, I'm right in the moment of thinking about it. And this is again something that people do speak about often. I wish we didn't have to, but I want to pull it all together and try to put something out there that's practical and also takes, like, we need to take we need to look at both sides of things. We need to make sure we are having the conversation around what is a demanding profession, and then when that line is and how that spills over. You can be in a high demand team with a lot going on, and you can have that pressure, but with the right people, the right team, the right manager, I've had that feeling of like, we're in it together, I'm not alone, I've got this. If I make a mistake, it's okay, we'll fix it, I won't be berated. And that sense of camaraderie versus the high stakes, the high billables, the high demands, but feeling incredibly alone and incredibly scared of any type of little mistake. It's two very different things. So a lot of that comes back to the leader and the lack of training, I think, for them, and incentive, because they're very busy as well and they're trying to get their billables up. So the whole circular thing.
Yeah, it's the cultural traits of the legal industry, right? So we have conformity and we have financial motivation and we have competition, and these things are just, as you said, once they're taken outside of their positive constructs, then the negative can be so detrimental for people. But in all of this, and listening to you speak now, it's like everywhere. And I've been in the conscious leadership space now for 12 years, and it's the lack of self-awareness is the precursor to everything. The more we build our self-awareness, the more we're able to be mindful, to be present, to be aware of our reactions, our what we're feeling in the body, and how it's those emotions are, precursors to the behaviors that we take, and the actions that we take. Being able to watch ourselves and observe ourselves as we go through that is so important, and that's where it's been really lacking in the legal profession. And I feel, as someone who practiced for over 22 years, to be able to, for lawyers to be able to come back to themselves, to come back to that space of, okay, I need to reflect, right? I need some space to reflect. We're so busy doing. We're so busy
Mm,
doing. No one gave us permission to just be. And, it's in
mm,
the being that you can understand what you're doing, what your patterns are, what's motivating your behavior, what emotions are coursing through your body. And, is it fear? Is it anxiety? Are you completely lost in, the sea of all
mm,
the things? So
mm,
everything you just spoke to, that it all comes back to self-awareness. It all comes back to having space to be. It all comes back to emergence, right? To allowing what wants to emerge, to
mm.
looking with a very curious kind of mindset to, this can be different. It doesn't have to be this way, and
Yes.
I loved how you phrased it all, and your own curiosity and your own creativity, not just as an art but as a way of thinking, is really influencing your own field and your own energy field and the people who are coming to you. How do you see that? I mean, that's an amazing feat in 5 months, Mel, that you have been able to create. This is quite
Mm,
phenomenal. How do you see this
thank
this
you.
creativity kind of influencing the field around you now?
Oh gosh, look, 5 months in, let's bam, type it out. But I have been thinking and really just mulling over a lot of these ideas for a long time, which was why the pull to throw myself into these projects was so long. I'm like, I have to get this out. The the what you just spoke about in conscious leadership is coming. Like, I genuinely feel the shift with the next generation of leaders. However, they just have not been modeled what different can look like. They know that this doesn't work. They don't want to do it the way that they received it, but they are almost like, it's almost like gentle parenting, but it's like gentle managing, gentle leading, and really trying to break generational traumas within the legal profession. Like, I was treated poorly. I now understand that, but I will not inflict that upon the people who are coming up beneath me and behind me. That should be the legacy that every practitioner wants. That should be the mark of an evolving human, an evolving profession, that we can accept what was done was like not okay. However, it is what it is, but we need to shift and move forward. I think generate, like, anyone in the profession at any age or stage can have those moments and can be that change. But the next generation, I think, kind of my older millennial peers, I really think are really trying to be that sandwich and open to the terms that you just said, like the concept of unconscious leadership, self-regulation, self-awareness. Like, these are terms, along with psychological, psychosocial safety, that I can't imagine many had heard for some time and would just be like, what is that woo-woo that they're talking about? But we get it largely, and we are more aware of these concepts. So I have great faith, I really do, but it's not happening quick enough. So right now, today, what does someone need to know to make them feel a little bit safe, to start to think practically about moving themselves, out of this environment if they can, or if they can't, for financial, maybe visa, maybe other reasons? What harm minimization strategies? What's the role of HR? What does the law say? What are your rights? What are your responsibilities of yourself, and being accountable for, hey, I'm in this situation. You can only do so much due diligence on a workplace and ask around, is this a good place? You can only do so much. Sometimes you step on a landmine. What can you do in that exact moment? How can you help reset your nervous system in that moment? That's the piece. It's band-aid, but that's the piece I'm really trying to get out for now, as we start to then have that conversation for the shift that we want. I've gone off on a tangent, but I guess maybe to answer the question, I'm so passionate and in flow about this conversation because I have been thinking about it for quite some time. And I guess I'm just my like eldest sister, eldest daughter vibe. I'm like, well, I can see this mess and no one else is fixing it. So what can I do to try and help? I can't, certainly I'm just one piece of a puzzle, but I have a unique voice and a unique flavor. It's not for everyone, but I will reach people that others can't. And I'm going to put something out there that I hope is positive, hopeful, but also realistic for now. So I'm just so lit up by that. It's what it feels like to be living in line with your values, I guess. Curiosity and passion and creativity and impact.
It's wonderful. Thanks, Mel. So, you talked about regulating your nervous system, and this has become a topic that we've been exploring quite a few times, basically throughout every episode in this podcast.
Nice.
I invite you to kind of share with our listeners, what's your go-to tool? How do you check in with yourself to make sure that you're okay?
Oh, lots of things. I will use my sleep as a good indicator. And if I'm not sleeping well or as deeply, or if I'm struggling to fall asleep, there's something going on, like that for me is the number one. Okay, that's what's going on here. For me, I think I'm just very sensitive to sleep. And if I am out of rhythm or out of sync with that, and I don't really address it, what's happening in my mind? Why am I not winding down? Oh, the phone, I'm too much on my phone before bed, like whatever the habits are leaking in, the sleep is the first to be affected. And once that goes, for me, it's like downward spiral of like deregulation. So that is my number one kind of baseline. And yes, very conscious of it. I think I try different techniques at different times, journaling, meditating, coming into myself. But I must say it's so much of a physical feeling, and I'm still practicing this. I still get it wrong, but just really knowing and naming my baseline, and when I'm feeling under or over, and not trying to shame or guilt myself, but just being really, really curious. Oh, I'm feeling a little flat today. How interesting. Why? What's going on? Okay, yeah, that makes sense. We had a couple of drinks, rosé last night at the function or whatever. That's going to affect. What can I do moving forward to try and just regulate that? So I find it very much a physical thing for me first, and then I'll spiral if I don't kind of try to manage that. So yeah, it's a work in progress. Equally, I'm like really learning more about myself on the heightened stage. And I have I do have these just wonderful bursts of creativity and excitement. And I'll just something drops in, I'm like, oh my gosh, let's go. And I just want to create the thing. I'll get into kind of a hyper focus. It's a trait that a lot of my siblings have. And it's fueled by a wonderful energy of just, oh my gosh, this is something that I really am enjoying. Let's do it. But I still think that my body still accepts that as stress in some way. And so then eventually I'll have the alternative, because you have to have like the yin and the yang. You can't have one without the other. So even though it's not feeling like stress, it's maybe the eustress or really positive, productive. If I don't manage that, as much as I really, really want to just stay in flow and keep writing, I've got to have my lunch. I've really got to keep my water, go for a walk, maybe some breathing. Let's come back to the baseline, because otherwise I will have the other side of that, and two sides of the same coin. But I'm not good at it yet. I'm still really trying to manage that. So physical self-awareness for me is the first step.
Kind of sensing what's happening in the body, name it to tame it. What you resist persists, right? Allowing things to move through you. Yeah, I love it. And I think that that's really so handy and useful for our listeners, because, I do hear a lot, and when I go out and speak with lawyers, and also in my private kind of coaching work, that, it's like, oh, I tried this and I just can't get it done. I'm not good at it. I'm just not going to. No, give it a go. And if that's not working for you, try this and try this and try this. You have a
Oh,
tool
for
belt
sure.
that is packed to the brim with all sorts of different tools, right? Pull out the ones you need at any given
Yeah.
moment and see how you go. But sensing into what's
Yes.
happening in the body and feeling that, and really kind of, saying, oh, I'm feeling, as you said, I'm feeling a bit anxious. Why am I feeling anxious? I'm feeling a bit flat. I'm feeling a bit, wired. What's going on is so important. Bringing that kind of cognitive awareness into the emotion and the state to bring you back into that green zone of vitality is wonderful. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. I think that's really,
Of course.
really powerful for people to connect with. I think everyone has a similar experience, but I know we're running close to the end of our time, and I know we can keep talking for another 2 hours, but for those who are listening to us today, who are kind of standing at the edge, right? They're on the precipice, they're on their own kind of edge of change, of new. What's one small act of, I guess, courage that you would invite them to take this week to kind of, become who they are? Because you've called your path the slow process of becoming who you are again, which I absolutely love. And I wanted to end on this. What's that one step of courage you would invite people to become who they are again?
What has been so powerful for me has been a visualization exercise of meeting my 85-year-old self. And I don't know why 85, but she's 85 and she's got like a pink rinse through her hair, and she's so cool. But she's a bit tired. And what is she saying, looking back at me now? What is her take on all of this? What is she saying? What is she laughing at, the foibles? When I do that, I can't help but get a perspective of, this is all going to be fine one way or the other. This is such a small moment in time. You can't really make a bad choice. Your 85-year-old self just wants you to go after the thing that lights you up. And the second piece is that I'm certain she is also saying no regrets. No regrets. Like, do the thing, try the thing, fail, make a mistake, whatever, learn, but please don't let me live at 85 looking back and thinking, oh gosh, what if I had really just tried that thing, even though it was scary and made no sense or whatever. And I just want to do the things that I need to do so that my 85-year-old self is not cranky at me. And maybe she's like not living in the bougiest place because I didn't make all the money because I was optimizing for joy and creativity and impact and not for my superannuation. I don't know, but we'll see. I'm just going with that. So the visualization is I found very, very powerful. And once I got in touch with that, I was like, oh, okay, I'll do it. And that's helpful for me.
I love that. Yeah, it's brilliant. Brilliant. Um, if you were to choose one word to describe this new chapter in your life, what would it be?
Untamed.
Oh,
That came in so quick because I love Glennon Doyle's book by the same name, and I do feel increasingly like untamed, to be honest. I now am an independent operator. I certainly, there are consequences to my actions. I don't want to be completely unhinged and ridiculous. That's not it. But I can really say and do what I feel like I need to say and do without being concerned or hypervigilant about what my employer thinks, or I don't know, anybody else that would try to maybe keep me from playing small because it was an inconvenience or something. I don't know. But yeah, she's untamed and I don't know, making stickers and
love it.
hats. I've got the merch, the guides, like who knows? I'm still figuring out what all of this is going to look like. But for now, I'm putting out into the world a lot of the things that I wish I had available to me earlier in my career. That's my guiding North Star. And we'll see what that ends up, ultimately accumulating into.
Fantastic. Well, Mel, it has been so wonderful speaking with you. I have thoroughly enjoyed watching your journey on LinkedIn and following all
thank you, lovely.
your thoughts and your brain dumps and your calls to action and your
it's
just
all in there.
so much and it's just so much fun and joy, and there's just so much joy, right? And with joy and a freedom and an openness to just be, as you say, become who you are again. And your journey of becoming who you are again is so inspirational, I know, to so many. So thank you so much for sharing so openly and authentically, and for all the things that you do. I will put in, of course, the podcast description for all those listening to us today, all of Mel's contact details, so you can connect with her on Instagram and on LinkedIn, and you too can join in the joy of all the things that she shares with the world. But Mel, thank you. Thank you so much for being with us.
Oh, thank you. And thank you for holding space in such a beautiful, beautiful way in the field. I'm like
in the field,
very relaxed looking at the backdrop. So yeah, just love what you're doing as well. I'm so glad we connected. It was like, that's my person. Yep. Thank you.
Thanks, Mel. Thank you so much.